This is one of several pictures of our first library display. Thanks to Sandy and her daughter Jessica and her other daughter for putting this together. Where are you at? All right, thank you. You're going to thank her even more when, no, we actually are in the preliminary stages of putting a program together next year for as many libraries as we can get in Lake County. I believe there's 7 of them that are not even affiliated with the Lake County Library, that libraries that fly on their own, like Lowell and Crown Point. So one of our goals is to be able to be in multiple library showcases like this at the same time. So pretty cool. There's I think the very first day we had somebody that called up just to inquire about it, and Sandy followed up with them. So thank you very much. I think we got another picture, or just the one?
No, the other one.
Just
How long was it displayed for?
A month.
A month.
Yep. And actually it was, I'm going to say it was pretty easy to do because
You didn't do it?
yeah. No, but I did get all the stuff ready for her and made some cue cards. I think the challenges were getting the suit to stay and things like that. So it looks nice. Had a lot of compliments on it, and that's what we're wanting to do, get that out there. So, next slide. So the building we're in and the organization here, American Legion, nationwide celebrates their 100th birthday this year. They were, American Legion was created to, one of the primary reasons was to welcome home vets and give them a place to gather and greet and things like that. So I got together with a couple of builders in town, or other vendors in town, and we've got a couple of billboards we're putting up on the east end when you come in and on the west end when you come in. Actually, it was east and west. So they have an open house here, September 1st. And a few of you know I've kind of, this is my labor of love here. There's a bunch of miscellaneous things to do around here yet. Boy Scouts have been helping out with things, but I'm going to look for some volunteers to give me a hand painting some benches, just a little touch up. I got a pressure washer going to be doing some stuff. I don't have any dates or anything yet. There's not a big window of opportunity for that because, you know, a couple of 3 weeks. But anybody that would like to give a couple hours to help out, see me afterwards, would be greatly appreciated. So education, today we're going to talk about a little bit about what's in bloom. Jerry's going to address some of the things on the honeydew list, and good to see you here, Jerry. We thought he wasn't going to be here, for those of you who didn't know. So I'm going to be talking about extraction. Greg's going to be talking about honey quality. I'm going to be talking about inspections. Greg with late summer varroa, and I'll be discussing briefly robbing screens. So back to what's in bloom.
I actually wrote a small list of things in my yard. Look when you're done.
Okay. Yeah, we'll call out. Fantastic. So, by the way, Diane's got a really nice yard. It's small. I couldn't even imagine what it'd be like if you had a couple of acres. So, anybody? I was going to say, can anybody tell me what this is? Come on, soybean. See? So, I got a couple things I'm going to talk about, but Tara, you know a little bit more about the soybean. I know a few basics, but not even enough to be dangerous. So I did tell Jerry that I would pick on you just to...
She'll make your head spin.
Yeah, we don't need that, okay? We just need some basics. Real quick, beans are all over the place. You know, some of them are coming in flowering, and you can stand there.
Well, there's early and late soybean. Typically the late would be purple. And this year, depending on when the farmers got in the fields to be able to plant, depending on what variety they planted. Nectar flow for soybean has to be hot and humid. It has to stay over 75 degrees. If it gets cool, we get a 50-degree night, it'll take about 3 days for it to start to nectar again.
the increase of the percentage that
Oh,
they can increase
yeah.
the yields?
There's a lot of different research studies depending on what part of the country. But like in Ohio, I think they said it was 8% yield increase. So you can talk to your farmer neighbor and they might appreciate your bees, and then they'd let you know when they're going to spray as well. I think they did some other studies. I know they did one in down south, and then
What about that one where it was netted?
I think that was in Ohio where they netted a whole field and they got 50% yield increase.
On a monocrop, yeah.
Yeah, on a
50%
monocrop. They forced
increase,
the bees
yeah.
to work it. The bees have to see the flowers, typically, unless it's really, really hot, and then they can smell the nectarines. But mostly they see the flowers, and depending, this year a lot of the farmers just broadcast it and didn't row crop it, so it's harder for the bees to find. And they start to bloom from the bottom, and then they work their way up the flower up.
You said they netted the field? What does that mean?
They enclosed the whole field in a giant net.
And the bees couldn't get in or couldn't
The
get
bees
out?
couldn't get out.
Oh.
So they were forced to work it as a
So
monocrop.
they worked it.
And
They had
increase the yield 50% of the beans.
That's crazy
So-
business.
Well, it's good to know. I mean, that's the potential.
Yeah, we had our farmer neighbor last year planted a little corner by us, and he planted all his leftovers from all his different fields. There was white and purple and all, and they tended to work the purple a lot better. And it depends on the nutrition of the soil as well. They like the phosphate, and typically if you got the higher nutrition, the farmers are typically going to plant corn. But you can get lucky and have it. I mean, we're going to have some hot next week, I think. So if you're in an area where it hasn't bloomed yet, ours is about done. So,
So much behind.
but you still be getting, you guys should still see soybean coming off of it. It's kind of a lighter, you can kind of taste it.
Bland, I think.
Yeah.
I think soybean honey's kind of
Earthy.
bland, yeah.
Earthy, bland, yeah.
That's why you try and mix it with some buckwheat or something to give it some flavor.
Some flavor. But it's mixed
Or
with most all
milkweed
of
or,
it.
all
Yeah.
the other stuff too.
Typically
yeah.
that's what it's mixed with
Yeah.
is milkweed. That's a little bit.
Well, you can also encounter honeybound because of your soybean crop.
Yeah.
Last year, yeah.
Honestly, this year, isn't our timing kind of good though? Because traditionally soybeans are blooming in June.
July, August.
Well, we're just so far behind those that planted though. I mean, we're going to see such late crops when we're traditionally in a dearth.
Yeah, we won't have much of a dirt. So.
Okay, next slide, please. Buckwheat. I am now a firm believer and lover of buckwheat. That is me, by the way. That's a spot in my yard that I tilled up. And gosh, so that buckwheat there is about almost 3 feet tall, 7.5 weeks old. It blooms in the morning from about 9 to 11:30, 12 o'clock. In about 10 days, I'm going to till that in, and I will get another crop out of it. Now,
Sorry, you can't.
you can, yeah. As a matter of fact, had I planted this quite early, and we had a great growing season, I could get 4, maybe 5 crops out of it. Your nutritional content varies according to the planting because of things like rain, humidity, temperature. But that right there, the nectar content on that can be as high as like 13.6%, which kind of breaking that all down means that they can get a gram of nectar from 7,000 flowers. Now, I didn't count how many flowers were on there, but there's a pretty good chunk on there. And I overseeded that. A rabbit couldn't walk through there. It's so dense. So, doesn't smell the greatest. I thought I'd have this fantastic smelling yard. Yeah, a little bit of a pungent odor, not much till you get there. Yes, Sandy.
Didn't you say the buckwheat makes a really dark honey like molasses?
It does make a dark honey. And I like a lot of flavor like that, of earthy flavor. And if it's too much for you, blend it just like, you know, the big honey producers.
How big of an area did you?
That is 85 by 54
5
feet.
feet by 50?
Yep.
Shoot, bigger than that.
And that's, you know, it's that angle. But I became such a big fan of this that I had several other spots that I was doing some work in. And you all know what weeds can do, man. You till something up and weeds come right in. I just sowed buckwheat everywhere. And it is just looking like that with no weeds. It grows so fast that it doesn't allow any light to get through to let any weeds. Not that there'd be many weeds there anyway. It was my yard, and all you got there is clover and dandelions, and they don't grow tall.
When you say you sow it, do you have to have equipment?
No, I just broadcasted it. So, but I am going to invest in a nice broadcaster because I plan on sowing a lot more. Yes.
The question, to redo this or rerun it, do you have to cut it and put this through it, or?
Just till it down. Just going to till it with a mower, scratch it about an inch deep. So,
Yeah, it does not like deep.
no, it doesn't.
About 3/8 of an inch max.
Yeah. Matter of fact, I sowed this in a little bit, and all along in the grass, and I didn't even have rain. This stuff sprouted on me in 3 days without any rain, and I mean it just lays on the dirt and starts. So it's a good little plant. So, but it's really cool to go out there in the morning. It's kind of a ritual on the weekend when I'm off. Take the coffee cup out. I mean, it is just a buzz of bees, and there's a lot of other pollinators in there too. So, go ahead. Oh, well, in the back there, I'll show you while you're here. That used to be an orchard where all those white boxes are, and I cut it down. It had died out. My plan was to cut it down after it bloomed, and I have nuke boxes sitting back there, which now I realize the buckwheat's going to grow so tall I got to take a weed eater to it. So, go ahead. Okay, goldenrod. Last year at one of our first meetings, we talked about goldenrod a little bit, and we've got a couple of people in here has anybody seen any goldenrod starting to open yet? Okay, Jerry?
2 weeks ago.
Yeah?
The early one, they won't get anything off it probably, but
Okay, all right. So, goldenrod belongs to such a wide range of species in its family. It's like 2,300 different flowers it's related to, from daisies to asters, and the list goes on and on. There's over 100 different types in the United States. There's about 20, I can't remember, 23 or 28
23.
between the Midwest, Indiana and Illinois. If you've got goldenrod in your area, I had suggested this to somebody last year to do what I did the previous year, and go through when it's young and it's 12 inches tall or so, 14 inches. Go through with your mower and cut some of it, and go back and do the same thing a little later, so that when the bloom time comes, you have staggered bloom time. Last year was a really tough year. The warm winds came, dried everything out, and boom, goldenrod was kind of gone on us. But if you can extend that season with that, that's a great thing to do, and it's really easy to do.
And we do the same thing with buckwheat, so it's perpetually blooming. We run 3 different fields of it.
Yep. I did that on the other side of my property. I went through and tilled up, 1,600 foot long area, 5 feet wide. So it's actually, as the crow flies, 1,200 feet away from my bees. Where that field of goldenrod is that I suggested we do that way. So next one. August and September. I'm gonna go through this a little bit, but I'm gonna hand it over to Jerry as soon as he steps up. So, how you like that chair I put over there for
Thank
you, Jerry?
you so much. That was
Thought
very
you might-
thoughtful.
Thought you might like that.
No, okay.
All right, here you go.
So how many of you have seen swarm activity? Yeah, a lot of you. Been hearing that, been getting phone calls about it. Continue your swarm management. People say, well, will these bees swarm this time of year? Absolutely they will. I don't know about your bees, but ours are just really thriving. We've had a nonstop food source, Pollen has been phenomenal. Nectar flow's been great. I've only seen about 4 days so far this entire season, once it started, to where they didn't have a good food source. Well, that was just recently. With this rain, boom, everything turned back on again. Add honey supers to increase hive space and reduce the swarming as necessary. Well, you already want honey supers on it now. Hopefully they've got them drawn out, but any kind of nectar flow is a good time for them to be drawing out frames. So if you need frames drawn, get them in there. Protect your queen from being honey bound. And this also goes for pollen bound, because we've had some amazing amounts of pollen come in, and I'm going to share that with you. Have you got a pollen trap handy? Okay, it's over there. We've actually been putting pollen traps on to keep them from becoming pollen bound. And here's a simple one you can buy right now from, actually, let's see here. You can buy this from Kelly Bees. They've got these for about $7.50. So what you do, it's pretty simple. Take this part, and it looks like an entrance. That's what it is. Replace that entrance. Do it at night. After the bees are in, do it after dark. Why? Why do you do it after dark? Then they got to figure it out in the morning, and then you'll see them come out and reorient.
And they don't like you messing with the entrance too much.
So the way this works is, it's got a flapper door here. See that flapper door? Make sure that door's closed. So close it. It's got a couple latches to make sure it stays closed. Otherwise, they'll just go around it, and you'll be like, "Why didn't I get any pollen?" Well, they haven't smarted yet. So make sure you close it. The tray just simply slides in on the bottom, and all these pollen traps are pretty well the same from one brand to the next. It's just the price is different, and they all work pretty similarly. You don't want to take all of their pollen. You don't want to leave this on all the time. They need pollen to produce babies, but when you see they're bringing copious amounts of pollen, pull some, set it aside for your own bees or your own consumption.
If you got 6 frames in your hive with pollen, yeah, they could.
Yeah, if you're starting to get pollen bound, yeah, they don't need that much. Feed it back to them later, put it in the refrigerator.
How about springtime, early spring, feeding it back?
Yeah, you can feed it back to them then.
Freeze
Sure.
it and put it back, yeah.
So, during break, I want you to come up here and take a look. I don't know how many of you have seen pollen before, but I've got a tub here of pollen. This stuff goes for between about, I think, 18 and 30 bucks a pound. So a lot of people use it. I know some people in here use it as a type of vitamin supplement. Pollen is so complex that scientists cannot reproduce what's in there. There's so much to it that they can't reproduce that. So this stuff is good for you. So let's see, back to where we were. Adequate ventilation. Why do we need ventilation? One, so the bees stay a little bit cooler and they can control from overheating. How many of you guys lost frames of brood from overheating the 4th of July? Okay, if you didn't,
You probably did.
you probably did. You probably don't know how much. Just saying, because it was so hot, it overheated them. Anything that was capped, they had a hard time keeping them cool enough. I mean, unless you were spraying water to cool your hives, it was a rough one. All right, so
Hey, Jerry,
yeah.
the example to help with that, we've got some screened inner covers. 'Cause
Yeah.
That made a huge difference for me this year.
Well, I was running full opens, and I still had,
So,
cap brood death from it. So, yeah, even with full open. I mean, 3/4 gap, open air. Yeah, it was that hot. Combine your weak hives, make them strong. Don't try to take a single deep through winter now. Start pulling it in with something else. I mean, unless it's a new queen and it's very prolifically reproducing, then try it. But otherwise, start combining your stuff and getting them ready for winter. Why are we thinking about that in August? We should be out hanging out on the beach still.
Because our bees are thinking
Keep
about
it in your mind. You've always got to be thinking a couple months ahead of what's happening so you're ready for it.
already passed
And
the
it's like he says, the bees are thinking about it. We're past the solstice. You should consider now. Am I on to that one? Yeah, there we go. Consider requeening with a post-solstice queen for overwintering. August is a month. What's the purpose of a post-solstice queen?
she'll lay more prolific going into winter, so you have a higher volume of winter bees.
Mhm.
She's not gonna start to taper off like a lot of your full season queens are, plus you're gonna get a reduction in swarming the next season.
And what's a winter bee?
Winter bees
When
gonna
you said that she would start laying winter bees.
So the makeup's gonna be different in the winter bees versus summer bees, because now you're gonna start seeing the fat bodies in the bees to help sustain them, because now instead of looking at a 6-week lifespan, you're looking at 4 to 6 months.
Exactly. So that's what's important is the bee coming out of there is a different bee than what you had in the spring. So that's why post-solstice queens are important. Now, make a list of things you need for overwintering your colonies. Why do I say that now? Because with shipping, people get out of stock. Go ahead, Ted.
Question. I mean, this sounds silly. I just don't know how to ask this. But when you're looking at summer bees and winter bees, fat body bees,
Yeah.
I understand the concept and all that, but can you absolutely recognize that in your hive as they're starting to hatch? In comparison, you know what I mean? Can you see like the summer bee, which would be, you know, like the, you know, skinny bee, and then you got, you know, one sitting next to it would be like maybe, is it under the size of a drone?
The summer bees are wearing shorts, and the winter bees have got parkas.
No, because still, you look at the bees are gonna be limited to the size of the comb that they're raised in,
Correct.
so ultimately, you're not gonna see a big physical difference in the bee itself. That's something where you have to get into dissection. No different than you hear people talk about large cell versus small cell bees.
Correct.
The size of the worker itself is gonna be predetermined by the size of the cell it's raised in. No different than your queen cells. If you've got a nice long thumb-sized fat queen cell sitting at the bottom, drawn nice and straight, you've got that little runty one right in the middle, I know which one I'm picking.
Sure.
So it's, again, that's gonna be determined by the size of the cell of the
So
comb
it's
the
not
bee
something
was
that you
raised in.
can actually see, it's just.
No.
Summer bees are beat up too. Their
Yeah.
I
wings
have witnessed that. We
Yep.
their wings are tattered, and that
Yeah.
where these winter bees aren't. They're not gonna
Crisp.
forage.
Very
You know,
crisp.
so they're gonna be working inside the hive, so their wings are gonna look a lot better.
Good answers. A lot of good information there. A lot of good information. So this is also a perfect opportunity to discuss pest management. You can pull your queen, set her to the side, let that colony make a new queen, and keep this queen as a reserve. That way you've got a post-solstice queen. That's one option for you to do. Now, you've got an emergency parachute sitting there in case something fails with the reproduction of this queen, this new queen. So if you did a brood break that way, one, it helps your varroa mite counts. Two, it gets you a post-solstice queen. Do it in a manner that, you know, we're not going to get into how to do it tonight because it's that everybody's got their own methods, but consider that as an option too. And as I was saying, make a list of things you need for your overwintering your colonies. The next meetings will be getting deeper into overwintering, so that way we've got a precursor to the big push for winter, so you know what to be expecting. Do a monthly alcohol wash for varroa mites. How many people are doing those? Why are we doing them?
Says the healthier bees.
Because we don't want to buy bees next year. We want to have these same bees going next year. That's why. We want healthy bees. We want our neighbors to have healthy bees because we have healthy bees. We want our neighbors to be doing mite washes and treating their bees as necessary. That's why we do this. That's what this club's about, is educating and promoting healthy bees.
So our bees don't round them out.
Yeah. Preferred method right now would be oxalic acid. Backup for fall here is going to be typically 8 bar is what most people use. Service your small hive beetle traps as necessary. How many people have seen an increase in small hive beetles lately, too? They're all of a sudden starting to rear their head. I'm starting to see more of them again. So, get your little fuzzy Swiffer sheets out and get them in your hives. And what was it? I saw somebody posted that they had just lost like 500 frames to small hive beetles in one of the commercial boards. I'm like, ooh, that hurts.
Should have been doing his weekly inspections.
Yeah.
Small hive beetles hatch in 2 to 4 days.
Yeah.
I'm gonna touch on that a little bit later in here.
Oh, okay.
And what's good is all this kind of ties in. Everything we're talking about. Watch out for robbing and dearth. We had a little bitty dearth here. Probably, you know, your bees probably got a little bit feisty for a few days. Now today they're probably coming back down after that rain. There's a good nectar flow already. I've just seen them just all over the vegetation. and attend the next Illiana Beekeepers Alliance meeting. On here, I also added on August, blah, blah, enter your date. My mite count was boom, and I will treat with whatever needs to be treated if you need treatment. Next, I saw my queen and eggs. It's important this time of year you stay on top of it, because if you start going queenless this time of year, you've got a good chance that you may not have an opportunity to correct it before winter. Note, her laying pattern was good, average, or poor, and I intend to replace, monitor, or overwinter her. So all you gotta do is circle or check mark. I hope you guys are taking these things home and using them as a model to take care of your bees each month. That's why we do it. It's kind of a cheat sheet, so you know. Because what I get from people is, can you tell me each month what I need to be doing with my bees? It's here. You don't have to call. You don't have to, post it on Facebook and say, "Hey, what should I be doing?" We've got it for you. That's the goal of this group, is to disseminate good, pertinent, timely information.
Make sure everybody picked a copy up.
Okay, and make sure you pick up a copy in the back there too. It's in the back. Sandy?
You have to change up what you treat mites with so they don't develop a resistance. Like if you normally use oxalic acid, you have to use Apivar another time. Like just shake it up a little bit.
They can't become resistant to oxalic acid
Because it's natural.
because it's an acid. There are things that they can, but oxalic acid isn't one. That's there's no, let's say for example, Apivar. If you remember one of the first few meetings of this club we had, I did a test for Apivar resistance in bees, where I took a little strip, put the bees inside this jar with the Apivar, and checked to see how many mites survived that contact for 6 hours with Apivar. And then I did an alcohol wash on those bees to see how many survived it, whether the mites had developed a resistance to Apivar or not. And they didn't, but that's the theory in what you're talking about, is trying to avoid getting them resistant to a certain chemical. So, and we don't see, you probably won't see much of that. And same thing with, formic acid. There's some other stuff that they can become somewhat resistant to, but it's not real common. Any other questions? All right. Like I said, I've got the pollen here for you guys to take a look at. This is some tiger lily pollen, sumac, quite a few others. Really beautiful, beautiful stuff. So,
Haven't figured out what the dark green is.
yeah,
But
I had to look that one up.
Pass it, Jerry. Take that and just pass it around.
I'll leave it up here so they can look at it. I don't want to get dropped or dumped or whatever.
So Jerry said he had tiger lily pollen in there. We were talking about that recently, and I've got a lot of tiger lilies around my place. I have never seen a bee on them. And as we talk periodically, it's crazy about what the bees hit in his area and what they hit or don't in mine. And that's just based upon diversification of, vegetation. Your beans are blooming and ours are a week or so out yet.
ours are about done.
So, okay, who's got honey here that they'd like? Who here has extracted honey? Show of hands. Who here has honey that they would like to extract? Who here hopes they have honey they can extract? Okay. All right, so we're just going to kind of go through this a little bit. These are some slides that we gleaned from our bee school. So I'm going to read it. Read along. Beehives over full of honey or pollen indicate a bee colony that's outgrown its hive. Staying aware of the amount of pollen or honey inside your brood boxes is an important part of preventing honey-bound or pollen-bound hives and swarms. Indicative of what Jerry just talked about here a little bit with our beans and everything coming in. In a good honey flow, strong hives can fill a super in 1 to 2 weeks. Depending on the flow, you may need up to 4 or 5 supers above the brood chambers. I'm running with 4 right now, and they're just about topped out. When the frame contains, a lot of people ask, when can I take it? So when the frame contains at least 80% sealed and capped honey, This is when you're going to begin to harvest the honey for the season. Honey in open cells, not capped with wax, can be extracted if it is cured. It's best to let the bees to collect as much honey as they can and cap it themselves. Just on that a little bit, a couple of weeks ago we were extracting some honey and we took a moisture reading on some uncapped honey, and then a little later we actually took a reading on some that was capped. And the uncapped came in 0.4% drier than what was capped. So,
That's what they're working.
yep. Each hive can produce anywhere from 20 to 60 pounds of honey on an average per year, depending on the variety of factors such as geographic location, weather, temperature, pests, local flora, and a lot of other variables. Some hives can produce much greater amounts under ideal conditions. Honey harvest. Make it a joint venture whenever possible. There's your bee buddy thing right back at you. It's a lot less work and a lot more fun, and you're sharing knowledge with everybody. How many bees per hive on an average? About 50,000 or so. It's a lot of bees. A little help can't hurt. You want to get in and get out when you're out, when you're doing that, you know? So it can get a little hairy if you're out by yourself and you've got half a dozen hives. My goal is to always work as fast and efficiently as possible. The quicker you get them buttoned up, the quicker they can go back to normalcy. Items that you're going to need, of course: beekeeper suit, veil, gloves, smoker with fuel / dry branches, leaves, old hornet, wasp nest, small bird's nest, not the birds, just the nests, lighter, propane torch, integral part of the equation there. You know, get that smoker going. We need to put a class on just smokers one day. That'll be an outdoor class, though. Go ahead.
Fume boards? This should be quick. You said you've used some that didn't smell very nice, so.
Is this good or bad?
It smells like.
Tell me if that smells like chloroform.
This is what I have. Yep.
This should be quick.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think I ever want to buy the stuff that smells really, really bad, just for the fear of, just for the fear of spilling it. And I was in somebody's vehicle, it spilled some of the nasty stuff a year earlier. And we still had to ride. That was an excuse when I got in. So, frame super, where frames with honey will be put in for transportation. Most of us here probably aren't just lugging them full frames. I mean, you get a little older, but you do? Okay, good for you. So, you know, I think we'll touch on this a little bit, but go out there. Well, we do have a slide that addresses that. So, hive tool to move the frame, scrape the wax, etc. Light the smoker. Smoke dulls the bees' receptors and prevents them from releasing the alarm odor, a volatile pheromone. The smoke also makes the bees gorge on honey, just further pacifies them. Think about it. How mad would you be if someone got into your house and was stealing all your precious? You know what I like the smoke for, though, too, is like when you get ready to button those bees up, and if you've taken all their supers off and you've extracted, you've pushed all those bees down, you have like, you know, an inch or so, an inch and a half of bees over the top and over the sides, and there is no way to put anything on without killing a lot of bees. You know, and if you just puff around the bottoms a little bit, give them a little time, they're going to go back in and probably go out the front door then. So, the frames with honeycomb are transported in supers. Have them handy. You may also want to have a cloth to cover your super, to cover the super with the frames full of honey to prevent the bees and other insects from getting on them. What we mean here is, you know, basically have your empty super there, wheelbarrow, your pickup truck or whatever, you know, set your empty on there, pull some of those frames, put them in, but that cloth is to cover it up, because once you've got the bees off of there, and believe me, there's going to be a whole lot of them right back on there if you don't keep them off. So, and they're going to follow you all the way back to the house. So, pull the frames out of the super, inspect the honeycombs depending on how busy the bees were, how warm it was, and if your hive didn't swarm, you may have anywhere between 20 to 100 pounds of honey. Inspecting the frames. Uncapped cells with some nectar in it are not harvested. Only sealed frames are. Depending on the hive configuration, there might be multiple supers to inspect. Take the super off the hive and move it to a clean surface. Pull out the frames of honey, put them in a harvest super. All the cells should be sealed. Each frame can hold an average of 6.5 pounds of honey, thus a 10-frame deep can weigh 80 pounds. I don't have this up there, but another little nice thing to do when you go out, have yourself a nice clean Tupperware or some kind of container, a bucket or something. You're going to find, you've got comb that all of a sudden, fell off, and you have no place to put it. So always bring something spare around. How do I know this? Okay.
That's the beekeeper treat, getting some fresh comb with honey on it. Oh yeah.
The frames may have different colors of honeycomb. The light one is pure honey. The darker one has pollen. The capped brood, the final stage of development for the bee, is tan in color and located in the center hive. So this is our capped honey up here, and there's different colors. There can be different colors to your capped honey. This one's actually a little silvery. It doesn't transfer well in the picture, but so here basically we have our honey up in here, and this is where our pollen's at, and this is our brood. Any questions so far?
Let's clarify, we're not extracting brood.
Yes, let us clarify, we aren't extracting brood.
There is wet capped honey and dry capped honey too. So the wet capped honey can look that glossy, whereas the dry cap looks like a cottony surface almost.
Okay.
But if you've got small hive beetle problems, you need to know the difference between wet capped honey and slimed honey.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
The larvae are usually a good giveaway. Yeah, not to mention.
You'll get to see them. Inspecting the frames. In the bottom picture, the crescent shape of the comb indicates where a brood was before. It is now packed with pollen and honey. You can see the nectar shine at you from the open, uncapped cells. Everybody can kind of see that inverted radius. He's holding that frame upside down.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that frame. That just means that before they filled it with honey and capped it, it had brood in it at some point. There's nothing wrong with that, because we've had a couple people even ask, hey, well, that's dark, so there must be something wrong with it. No, there are some cocoons in those cells from a previous generation of brood. There's nothing wrong with extracting that honey and going through. You're going to filter anyway. That's still good, solid honey.
It's just dirty salt.
Yeah, that's all it is. It's just cells that have been used.
Okay, thank you.
Come from a different source too. You can see a variety of colors from that.
Yep.
We've seen a lot of orange this year.
Yes.
A lot of orange wax.
Yeah, I was going to say, it even
Yeah.
tinted the color of my wax across the board in some areas.
I forgot to bring some, but I had a honey super that I put on a deep, and I had pulled a frame out. Actually, I had pulled 2 frames out of the deep to transfer brood, and forgot to put something in there. So I went to pull the super, and I couldn't get this thing up out of there. I tried and tried, couldn't figure out. Thought I had a frame hung up, so cracked it and looked, and yeah, I had drawn comb all the way down. But so when I got it out, though, pure white. I mean, just really cool looking, just pure white.
And to keep a little bit of fishing string, you can cut through that wax so you're not totally destroying it.
Wish I'd known that earlier. Okay, extraction. What do I need? A bee buddy. Uncapping tool, heated knife, uncapping roller to unseal honey cells, an uncapping fork to unseal any cells missed by the heated knife, or just get you up in the corners or something there. For those of you that attended the little uncapping event at my shop, you're well aware of the options. A tub for your wax and honey. Extractor. Fancy cylindrical piece of equipment used to extract honey. How many people have bought their own extractors? Okay, I pretty much knew everybody was getting like little 2 frames or so. Double sieve catches the wax and impurities as the honey is poured from the extractor. That's the first thing that I bought. I chose to buy a steel one just because it cleans up a lot better with hot water. I really don't even use that anymore. I just use a net in a bucket. Empty honey supers. You got to have something to put the frames into after you've extracted everything. So, optional items make the task easier. Warm water, I should say, / hot water for cleaning. Hot water works miracles there. Plastic gloves. I put gloves on just because, you know, phone rings, doorknobs, whatever. It's just easy to peel a glove off. Floor covering. Plastic, cardboard, you'll appreciate it after the fact. So easy to just wad it up. How'd your kitchen stay? Pretty clean last week?
Piece of cake.
Okay. Moisture content. I'm not going to talk too much on this because Greg's going to jump into it a little bit later, so I'll buzz right through. As a rule, capped honey moisture content is low enough to bottle. Check for moisture content before bottling anyway, especially if you have a blend of uncapped and capped comb. A refractometer is a very inexpensive, accurate way to check. I didn't even know that this thing existed until like my 3rd year. So nobody ever told me. So
They're $25 on Amazon.
and we do have selling raffle tickets today for one that I have up here. So, which was more than the $25 one. Ideally, the moisture content of honey should be less than 18.6%. If the moisture content is too high, say greater than 20, the honey may ferment due to yeasts in the honey. Since honey is hygroscopic, it is not. If it is not in a sealed water, if it is not in a sealed container, it will absorb moisture. It's always a good idea to let your 5-gallon bucket of gold sit for a few days and let any air bubbles or pieces of comb and train moisture just rise to the top for clarity. A little trick that Greg shared with me. And oh my gosh, it works beautifully. Take that 5-gallon bucket and put some saran wrap down over the top of it. Just set it everywhere. Oh. So after a couple of days, all the foam and parts and pieces rise to the top. You literally take that saran wrap and there is nothing left behind. That was pretty sweet. And then you go feed it to your bees. Never waste anything. Feed it all back to your bees. Use net warm water, rinse it, save it. I mean, mine's all in my refrigerator right now, but it will go back to my bees. Okay.
If you feed it back far away.
Not near your wife's.
Huh?
Not near my wife's.
Is this where we're going to transition?
No, that's okay. Go
Okay,
ahead.
all right.
That's the last one.
Check your local honey bottling regulations. A good honey harvest means buckets of honey. Once your honey is dripped into a clean food-grade bucket, either method of separating the honey from the comb will require a clean bucket for storage. A tight-fitting lid placed on a full bucket of honey prevents moisture and absorption. And watch out for ants. I have never had an ant problem ever until Greg and I went looking for something the other day, and he says, "Hey, are those ants there?" And I had a lid on, but not real tight on the one. But I had ants, so I cleaned everything that night, you know. But it kind of really sucked to see all those ants in there. So the beauty of the wildflower honey is the great variety of color and taste from one bucket to the next. This is an experience that is missed by large-scale beekeepers who mixes the whole crop together. When we extracted honey, we did this at my shop. We bottled, we separated what was from different locations and my early honey, and there was a very noticeable difference in it. Leave any unfinished product in a warm area for several days to enhance the clarity. So what I'm saying is after you bottle it and everything, you know, you still have, you know, entrained air and stuff that might have got in there from the spout. If you leave it in a windowsill or something like that, it's just going to clarify it. And clarified honey to me looks a lot nicer than cloudy honey.
In the sun or under the sun?
I put it in the sun, don't matter to me. So, okay, honey packaging. I'm going to hand this one over to Greg now. Everybody bored yet?
No.
Good. Good answer.
All right, so we're going to talk, obviously we're getting to that kind of season where everybody's going to be looking to extract and bottle, so just a couple things to go over with a lot of the questions that we've been getting from the group as a whole and that I've been seeing on a lot of the forums pop up. So obviously if other people have the questions, probably a lot of the people in here do, and maybe they just don't even know it yet. So hopefully we'll help out here. Oh, it's dead. Can you do me a favor? The right arrow key, please. Okay, we're not using a clicker. Yeah, just right arrow. Bottom right. Okay, so collecting, kind of like Alan was saying here, we were both working on getting stuff together, so there's just a little bit of redundancy, but it's stuff that's important to know, so I'm okay with it. So frame should be greater than 80% capped. Moisture content, like Alan said, 18.6% is what we're looking for, and that's a guideline set by the USDA. Testing can be done at home with the correct refractometer. Something to watch when you're looking at refractometers, they have refractometers for all kinds of stuff. They use them for winemaking, they use them for home brewing, and all of them have different scales. So it's kind of like if you were trying to measure ounces and you buy a scale that reads 0 to 300 pounds, it's really tough to zero in on that accuracy. When you're looking at the moisture content, you really want to try and get that down into fractions of a percent. If not, 1% can mean the difference between your honey lasting for years and not making it till next season if you're not careful. Syrup versus nectar. This is a big one that came through. I know we've had a lot of people asking about feeding, and I understand a lot of people are feeding to try and get comb drawn and doing those kind of things. The thing you have to watch is you can't have feeders on when you're going through and trying to run for honey. Honey is made from nectar, not sugar syrup. Honey is a secretion produced by the nectary gland, specifically designed to attract pollinating insects. The one exception that they do recognize is honeydew honey, which is some people call it forest honey, and actually that's an excretion from aphids and other nectar-consuming insects. So if you don't know, when aphids go through and feed, they're actually looking for the protein, and because the protein is in such a small volume, they consume a crazy amount of nectar, so that it goes through their system so fast, you'll see the droplets that literally looks like honeydew drops behind them. And the bees will actually feed on that and make honey. In Germany, they love it. I'm actually kind of interested to try it, but I don't know if I want a bug-refined bug excretion on my toast.
Basically, bug poop.
I'll get back to you. So bees can never turn syrup into honey, even though they do treat it and store it the same way. The invertase enzyme will break down the sucrose in the sugar the same as they do with the nectar into the glucose and fructose, but it's still a base of sugar syrup. What they're doing with a lot of the adulterated honey that we're seeing coming in from China, Argentina, that kind of stuff, they're actually testing, and they can look at the carbon isotopes because it's a C3 versus a C4 on whether it's actually honey produced from nectar or it's actually just converted sugar syrup. And we're having a huge push to try and eliminate a lot of that adulterated honey. They're trying to get around some of it now because they're actually labeling that honey is sometimes not even the primary ingredient in the honey that's being packaged and sold in a lot of our stores. Next one. Okay, so refractometer. So here's what I'm talking about. So you're actually going to go through and you're going to put a splash of honey right on top, and you want to cover this base here. You want to make sure you have a good light source coming into it because the way this works is it's actually measuring the light refraction point that changes based on the sugar content of the syrup. The accuracy itself is important too. So typically they say that you can calibrate it once and you're good to go. Problem is if you're not in the same room, in the same circumstances, with the same humidity and same temperature, the instrument's not going to measure the same. So typically, it takes like an extra 30 seconds. If you're going to use it, do a quick calibration. Typically, they'll even send a calibration fluid with it. So it doesn't take long to do. But this is the one way you can guarantee that the moisture content is going to be low enough in your honey that you will not have a problem. So we talk about some of the different kinds of honey because everybody sees on the label, is it regular, is it raw, is it pure, is it pasteurized, is it this, is it that? So just, some questions I had too. So I went through and looked with a lot of stuff we see on the labeling. So looking at regular honey that you buy in the store, it's all pasteurized. Anybody not know what the pasteurization is? So they're basically just heating it. They kill all the active biologicals, they run that high heat to get it through an extremely fine filter, so the appearance is great. It really is. It's a beautiful clear honey because they're able to run through an ultrafine filter, and they're able to do that because they lower the viscosity by heating it. So it enhances the appearance and shelf life, but it also takes out all the pollen, the propolis, a lot of the vitamins and minerals and enzymes, amino acids, antioxidants. So at that point, you're a honey-flavored syrup.
The sweetener.
Yeah, that's it. So, and a lot of the stuff that's imported too does have added sweeteners. Typically, high fructose corn syrup or brown rice syrup are the two that we find predominantly in a lot of the imported honey. So raw. Raw is basically what we're looking at marketing for the vast majority of us here. So it's unpasteurized, and for it to be raw, you're not heating it higher than the temperature of the hive. And I've seen a lot of the studies, they say typically you don't want to get higher than 110 degrees is what I'm seeing. Is that pretty accurate? And that way it's pretty much straight from the comb with only coarse filtering with the strainers like that Alan showed in his picture. It can be a little cloudier due to some of the debris that might get through just because it's not going through as fine a filter. It will crystallize faster with the extra stuff with the propolis and the pollen and the other content that's in the honey. But there's no additional sweetener. And if it does start to crystallize a little bit on you, get a pan of warm water and you can break it right back down and it's still that beautiful goodness.
Or cream honey.
Or creamed honey. Just got to grind the crystals down. I don't like them coarse, so it's like salt in my honey. Okay, so pure honey. So pure honey is still honey, but it's pasteurized, but no additional ingredients. But it's still pulled out all the pollen, the propolis, and the antioxidants and enzymes, and so there's still, I don't know, not for me. Now, Manuka, everybody, if you look at a lot of the websites and a lot of the stuff that's in the news, everybody's talking about Manuka honey and all the antibacterial properties and a lot of the stuff that's there. You can't produce Manuka honey, just so you guys know. That's native to New Zealand because it's on the plants over there. Forest honey is what I was talking about, where the bees actually take the honeydew. So it's Germany, Northern California are making it, and it's actually really interesting. If anybody's got some, I'd be interested to try it. And then you've got different varietals based on location and season. So I know Linda's talked about it before too, and so has Alan and Jerry and Tara. The cool thing is, especially once you guys get boxes of drawn comb, you guys have so many options that you're not going to have with the commercial guys. If you've got that drawn comb you can buy first thing in the spring, you can get that early clover, early dandelion. You can wait and then as the blooms are changing throughout the year, you can pull even just a couple of frames and you can actually taste your way through the entire season. I'm not there yet because I didn't have enough drawn comb in my supers for this season, but that's my goal for next year. And then when you go to some of the stands, it's, to be able to go through and you can see 6, 7, 8 different shades of honey. And they are going to have different flavor profiles going through. So if you ever had a chance to go to honey tasting, if you haven't, I would encourage you to do that. It's pretty cool.
Our first honey this year we pulled had a black cherry finish to it. And we sold out of it at $20 a pound. I mean, had people coming back for more because it was already an amazing honey, but the finish of that black cherry at the end was just incredible.
But if you would have waited till the end of the season to blend everything together, you never would have had that.
It was such a small quantity.
Right. So, again, when you are packaging, there are still some risks that we have to look at. So raw and regular honeys do have small trace amounts of bacteria that can cause botulism. It's in a small dose that adults it's a fraction of 0.1% going through. But this is specifically why that they say nobody under 12 months should have that, because they don't have the immune system built up to be able to deal with that at that point. So even though it's great, it's sweet, the kids love it, let's make sure they're at least a year old. People have severe pollen allergies should speak with a doctor or allergist before eating or using raw honey. Some people will tell you that it actually helps with their allergies. So I don't know. I don't have allergies.
A lot of vitamins and minerals in it.
But there's still a lot of great stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a superfood.
Okay, so labeling requirements. So Indiana actually has a specific set of labeling requirements that if you're going to sell. It's Indiana Act 1309, and these are all the items that are supposed to appear on your label if you're going to sell. If you're selling just at a local farm stand, or if you're selling anywhere in a public space, all of these things are supposed to be on your label. The only exception is if you're going person to person. This will be in the slides going through, but basically it's name and address of where it's being produced. The usual name, obviously, is raw honey, unless you're doing something else with it. The ingredients in descending order, honey. Net weight and volume, depending on whether you're selling them in 1 pounders, pints, quarts, but honey is typically sold by weight, not by volume. And then the statement in 10-point type that it's home produced and has not been inspected by the State Department of Health. And the date that it was processed. So with it not being inspected by the State Department of Health, there's only 3 places you can sell it. You can sell it at farm stands, you can sell it at a roadside stand, you can sell it person to person. You cannot sell in a retail or a wholesale space. Oh, there we go. Home, farmers markets, roadside stands. So.